Something's gotta give. Yeah, something's gotta change. I can't keep going on like this. I'm trying to do the right thing, but I'm not getting anywhere. You know how it is.
Because the economy hasn't been so good, a lot of you have decided to start gardening this year. But some of you just didn't get it done. Others of you might have gone out in the backyard to till up a great big space, and now you're just looking at a weed-filled patch of disappointment. If you haven't heard of it before, I'd like to introduce you to a different method called square foot gardening, invented by a fellow by the name of Mel Bartholomew, I think in 1981. It relies on 4 foot by 4 foot grids of single square foot areas. Now, I don't have any relation or connection to Mel Bartholomew, but I want to advocate the system anyhow because I've been using it for 20 years and it works really well, and I think it's a great system for beginners. Taking some old boards and building yourself one 4 foot by 4 foot area is a good way to get your feet wet. It's amazing how much food you can grow in that much area. You could have a salad all summer long for a family of 4. Mel claims that with his system, compared to a regular row garden, you can have 100% of the harvest at 50% of the cost, using 20% of the space, 10% of the water, 5% of the seeds, and only 2% of the work. I think he's pretty close to the mark, from my experience. I've been moving my garden right up to the front yard this year. My eventual plans by next year are to have 35 4 foot by 4 foot blocks. It's been a lot of work though. More than I ever imagined, so it's going slow. Now, Mr. Bartholomew advocates the use of a garden mix of 1/3 vermiculite, 1/3 compost, and 1/3 peat moss. I couldn't afford the amendments this year, so I got a local farmer to bring me a couple of big tractor scoops of last year's barn cleanings. It's about half composted cow manure, and the other half is partially decomposed straw. I just call it the good stuff. Well, I've gotten this much of the garden completed anyhow. It seems to be working well. This is 3 weeks' growth. It's amazing what you can grow in a small space using this system. For example, compared to row gardening, I've put in a 96-foot row of onions. I've only got 13 of my 4 foot by 4 foot blocks completed, but I've got a 48-foot row of corn in there, a 64-foot row of green beans, and 32 feet of potatoes. To hill the potatoes, I simply left the blocks low, and then when they got ready to hill them, I filled them up the rest of the way with the good stuff. If you look close, you can see what I mean. Now, the total garden space I have planned altogether is only 560 square feet. But that means I only have to weed, water, and care for that much space. Another key component to the system is to grow a lot of your veggies vertically on trellises. These are the ones I'm building. Rather than string or something, I'm using what's called cattle panels for the vines to grow up on. They're almost permanent, and you can reach through them to harvest your goods. The 13 blocks I have completed so far are only 208 square feet. But in addition to the stuff I've already told you I've planted, I've been able to squeeze in a whole lot of other veggies. The system relies a lot on succession planting too. Like after I ate the radishes, carrots went right back in that spot. And remember, I've grown all of that with just 208 square feet to weed. I really hate weeding. I've got a lot of work left to do, and hopefully by next spring I'll get most of it done. I've got a lot more blocks to build, and I've got to build some grid work with drip irrigation, along with about a dozen other projects I want to do around the place before snow flies. Well, I'll keep at it though, in between work and playing soccer dad. I'll keep chipping away at blocks and hauling the good stuff with my redneck wheelbarrow, and planting more stuff and harvesting more veggies. If you're like me and you think the economy is going to get a lot worse, and it's not going to get better for a long time, and you want to make sure your family doesn't starve to death in the future, it's not too late to try out this system. You could knock a couple of blocks of 4-foot by 4-foot garden together and still plant some cool season crops yet this year. Get your hands on a copy of Mel Bartholomew's book and give the system a try. I've got a sneaky suspicion if you try it, you'll like it.
'Cause every dollar I make seem to get me nowhere. No matter how hard I try, I can't seem to get